Okay, so you've been there, right? You're in a kickoff meeting, everyone's buzzing about this amazing new strategy, and then a few months later, crickets. It just dies on the vine. It's so frustrating and it happens all the time. But what if I told you the problem isn't the strategy itself? It's something way simpler, hiding in plain sight. Let's get into it, because we're about to unpack a tool that can seriously fix this.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll expose the real villain behind failed projects. Then we'll get into the weeds of this super useful framework called RACI. I'll give you a 5-step playbook to build your own. We'll look at a really cool case study of a company that turned things around, and then we'll talk about the big one, how to make this more than just a tool, how to make it part of your team's DNA.
All right, let's jump in. Section 1, why good strategies fail. We're about to pull back the curtain on the hidden enemy of execution, the number one reason even the best plans just fall apart.
Seriously, think about that for a second. Why do they fail? Is it a lack of money? Bad timing? Maybe the idea wasn't that great to begin with? Sure, those things can play a part, but more often than not, the real problem is baked right in from day one. It's a silent killer of progress that lives inside our teams.
I'm sure you've heard this before, right? It sounds kind of clever, but it's a painful truth in so many companies. We love to talk about shared ownership and team responsibility. And it sounds great, but in reality, it just creates this thick fog where you can't see who's supposed to do what. It's a trap.
And that is the real culprit here. It's not a lack of talent or effort. It's just ambiguity. It's this fuzzy gray area where nobody is 100% sure who owns what. So what happens? Stuff falls through the cracks, deadlines get blown, and then the blame game starts. Progress just stops dead. The enemy isn't bad intentions. It's a simple lack of clarity.
Okay, so how do we fight back? How do we cut through that fog? Well, there's a tool for that. It's called the RACI framework. And as we're about to see in Section 2, it's like a simple, powerful map for even the most complicated projects.
So what is it? At its heart, the RACI framework, sometimes called a responsibility matrix, is a super straightforward model. It's designed to do one thing and do it really, really well. Make it crystal clear who does what. Who makes the decisions, who does the work, and who needs to know about it. It just eliminates confusion before it even has a chance to start.
Now, let's break this down. You've got 4 roles. Responsible, that's the person or people actually doing the work. Consulted are your experts, the ones you go to for advice. Informed are the folks who just need to be kept in the loop. But the big one, the one that changes everything, is accountable. This is the absolute key. You can have a whole team of people responsible for a task, but there can only be one person who is accountable. One person. The buck literally stops with them. If you get that one rule right, you're halfway there.
And this question really gets to the core of it, doesn't it? The second you put 2 names in that accountable box for a single task, poof, you've just recreated the exact same problem you were trying to solve. You're right back in that fog of shared responsibility where, when it comes down to it, nobody truly owns the outcome.
Okay, so the theory is simple, but how do you actually do this? In Section 3, we're going to get super practical. Here are 5 steps to build your very own responsibility matrix. All right, Professor Lawrence Trebiniak gives us this fantastic 5-step process. First, you figure out your key goals. Then, you list all the people and the tasks involved. And step 3 is the secret sauce. Everyone fills out the matrix on their own, no peeking. Then, you all come together and compare your answers. Why do it this way? Because it completely avoids groupthink. You get to see where everyone thought the responsibility was. It immediately shines a huge spotlight on all the disagreements and misunderstandings that were hiding under the surface. It forces the conversation you needed to have all along.
And that's the real magic right there. Look, the finished chart is great to have, don't get me wrong, but the real value is in the process of making it. It's the tough conversations, the debates, the negotiations about who really owns what. That process is what aligns your team and makes you powerful.
So, does this stuff actually work in the messy real world? You bet it does. For Section 4, let's look at a Texas turnaround story that shows this matrix in action. So, check this out. There was this company in Texas, and their innovation pipeline had just dried up. Nothing new was getting out the door. So they tried this matrix thing, and it immediately led to what were called, quote, heated debates. You know why? It turns out the CEO had made himself accountable for basically everything. He was the bottleneck. Without this process, they might have never realized it.
But they pushed through those hard conversations, and the results were amazing. They built a new, much more balanced matrix,
And almost overnight, product development started moving again. They even published their own guide to responsibilities, so everyone was on the same page. It was a total game changer, and accountability became a real part of their culture, not just a buzzword.
And that's really the holy grail, isn't it? Not just using a tool once, but making it a habit. That brings us to our last section, number 5, from tool to culture. How do you make this stuff second nature?
And this is so important to understand. The matrix is not just another spreadsheet you fill out and file away. Think of it as a catalyst. When you use it consistently, it starts to fundamentally change how your team operates, how you talk to each other, how you collaborate, and how you get things done.
So how do you make it stick? You have to weave it into the fabric of your organization. Teach it to every new person who walks in the door. Make it a mandatory step for every new project. You can even connect it to how you review performance. But here's the catch. None of this happens without leaders who know how to guide those tough, heated conversations. That facilitation is absolutely crucial.
So let's just boil it all down. This whole thing, this framework, it's not really about a chart. It's about starting a conversation. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Right now, on your team, in your project, where's the fog? Where's that little bit of confusion that could derail everything? And what would happen if you had one single, clear conversation to fix it? Because that one conversation could literally change everything.